Stephen launched his book this week. As part of his launch program, he gifted notable figures a glass box. And there's a message that says,
we see these tactics start to fail because, quite simply, everybody starts doing them. Influencer marketing has become as ubiquitous as taking product photography.
influencer marketing is just so lazy.
Good customer service is a massive opportunity because most people are very bad at it.
Attribution has killed marketing. Memes and machines, we talk about content, marketing, creative, and we unpick the machine, the black boxes, the platforms themselves. This week, we got some really interesting topics. We're talking about influencer marketing, influencer gifting, how you get it to work harder. We talk about celebrity, we talk about persona. We have a deep dive into YouTube and how to make YouTube work for you and not against you. We also talk about compassion care. We put the world to rights. We talk about customer service. And we finish on a platform that is often misunderstood by many people, Discord. Damn, we covered a lot in like 45 minutes. What you got to say, Catman?
I think this week we dive into some real alpha, some stories from the ground floor of the industry. I think we unpack some of the tactics that we've both been exploring and we've both seen that's been working. Discord and YouTube, probably two of the most important but most overlooked platforms. I think this is the episode you need to listen to if you want to understand how you can leverage these two platforms and 10x your business.
Wow,
So
10x. What a good plug, 10x. I will also say, if you stick around to the end, you will hear why we believe attribution has marketing. Catman, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a short week in the UK. I've been away in the desert, was in Dubai on Saturday. Amazing. Saturday was the hottest day on record while I was there.
Wow.
Guess what I was doing? Swimming. I was in the pool, just prancing around, having a good time. So the heat, the hottest day in record, could not stop me.
Which bank holiday was this? The 5th or the 6th in the UK this year?
Who knows? I've lost count. But I did think we were being smart by taking the red eye back. So we took a red eye there, we took a red eye back. And I just realized they're a false promise because red eyes are awful. You feel horrendous the day after regardless.
Yeah.
You never sleep correctly. And I'm going to stop doing that. I think it's time efficient to do that. And I'm wrong every single time.
Yeah. Our CEO has completely given up with red eyes, refuses to fly them. He thinks it's a complete waste. You lose a day every single time. And yeah, I think it's an age thing, to be honest, Ollie. I think your body is...
Can we not start on the wrong note, please, Catty? I think I turned 34 relatively recently, and for a while when you hit 30 for the first time, you've still got that like 20s optimism. You start creeping up, and you're going, the next big milestone's 40. So when I'm thinking in those terms, I do find your comments offensive. Cool. All right, my man, let's kick off this week. So we've got a lot to talk about. I've seen tons of interesting things happening in the world of marketing. I've seen a lot happening across YouTube, but I want to get into some fundamental topics this week. So these are less about what's currently happened, but more themes that I think marketeers will get value from. So I'm going to kick off and I'm going to tell you a story. I hear time and time again that influencer marketing is getting worse. It's becoming less effective. Influencer gifting does not work. Brands are telling me that they're sending products and services to influencers, and unless they pay them and mandate them to create content, the earned media that you would hope to get from gifting someone isn't happening. So influencer gifting doesn't work. I am going to say that they are all wrong. What I mean by that is bad, ineffective, lazy, complacent influencer gifting certainly doesn't work anymore. But influencer gifting is very much still alive. And I'll tell you my story. So Stephen launched his book this week, The 33 Laws of Life, Marketing and Something Else. And it's a great read. I'm sort of halfway through, so I'll comment back on that later. But as part of his launch program, he gifted notable figures, creators, people within his network, a glass box that had a gold box within it, and it was padlocked. So imagine a few days prior to the book release, you receive a glass box that you can't get into without brute aggressive force. And there's a message that says, if you post about this and share, I will give you the code on this day. So what do? People share. They get their audience invested in what's inside the box. They're driving interest around this thing that's coming from Steve. And then on launch day, reveal the code, and the gift boxes are now opened, and there's personalized mementos and messaging from the book that correlates with the creator. And it's beautifully done, beautifully designed, and there's something that makes people feel special, and everybody's celebrated it. And so what are the results? You have hundreds of people sharing the story. They're bringing their audience with them, and not just bringing them with them, they're talking about the story that Steve connected them to that relates to the book. And as a result, you've got a bestseller. It's been talked about all over, millions upon millions of free impressions, or certainly low-cost impressions. And he dispelled the myth that influencer gifting does not work. So give me your take. Why are we seeing tactics that used to be tremendously successful failing? And just give me a bit of a broad take on maybe that or influencer marketing as a whole.
We see these tactics start to fail because, quite simply, everybody starts doing them. So influencer marketing has become as ubiquitous as, taking product photography. It's like the absolute ground level of marketing now. Like every single business needs an influencer marketing strategy. And being in the industry, you realize just how many agencies, how many tools there are. It's everywhere. And with anything, marketers just tend to copy each other. And we're now kind of at this absolute peak in the amount of people who are executing influencer marketing because everybody else is doing it. So you have to do it. Otherwise you feel like, you're missing out. As a result, influencer marketing is built on trust. It's built on trusting someone's opinion about a product. But how can you trust somebody about a particular product if it's the 15th product they've posted that day? And so you just have this crazy saturation of influencer marketing. But actually, that's a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity there for somebody with great creativity and ingenuity to cut through very, very easily. Because actually the barrier and the bar is very low now. I think what people don't see is the amount of gifting, the amount of stuff that influencers receive that they don't post. There is now just like an incredible saturation of the fight for attention for, how do you get onto a big influencer's Instagram story? And so it's quite simple. Actually, to be average is very easy. And to be better than average is easier than it used to be because the bar is getting lower. And so if you spend 10 to 20 minutes thinking about how can I craft an experience which really cuts through, and I think in Steve's case, it actually, he didn't have to pay those influencers a penny, but he directly, he made it impossible not to share. He kind of played on the psychology of curiosity. And so it just takes a little bit of thought, and all of a sudden you're able to cut through the, millionth teeth whitening kit that somebody sees on their feed that day and have something really unique and something that stands out. And actually the opportunity is huge because these people do have influence. They do have huge audiences.
Yeah, I vividly remember you having a conversation with me and saying influencer marketing is just so lazy. The barrier is just so low. You don't even have to be that creative or you don't have to do anything particularly interesting to get some results. You just have to do more than the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You just have to go a little bit above what you're describing, complete saturation. And what you said there was a number of things. I'm really obsessed with understanding consumer behavior. And several years ago, in the, let's say, the social media influencer marketing boom, I used to do a keynote and I would use the lens of an influencer describing just that it's inauthentic. I would say, there's Jenny out there. She's posting the same video every week, telling me this hotel's her favorite hotel. The week after, another hotel's her favorite hotel, etc., etc. And this would go on. And as a consequence, when you looked at the data, consumer behavior, trust in influencer marketing had eroded to the point of record lows. I think above the age of 35 at the time, 4% of people trusted what an influencer said. And I used to use the contrast of 21% of Americans believing in Bigfoot, yet only 4% of people trust influencer marketing. So I think the broader point I think marketeers need to take away is these absolutes, things are dying, things are, changing, this doesn't work. The answer is it's just commoditized. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just not being done very well. So the key is putting a bit more thought, a bit more effort, and trying to do things not differently, but doing things with purpose that is founded in marketing principles. How do you speak to someone's heart and their mind? And that's, I think, void in marketing today by large.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And you only have to look to some of the fastest growing brands in the world today. Things like, Prime by KSI and Logan Paul, other kind of creator driven products. Of course, these people have influence. They have huge influence, but it's a different game altogether when they have a really deep relationship with the product, to the point now where creators realizing, well, if I own the product, then I can make more than all these brand deals put together. And so as a brand, your challenge is to find 2 or 3 people rather than 1,500 people
Yes.
that you can work with, and go into some real depth with them. Maybe even figure out some kind of revenue share or some kind of equity stake. Otherwise, you're competing on the influencer side, because the influencer has 10 posts to think about that week.
Yeah, it's Prime's a fascinating example for many reasons, and we could break that down at length. I saw I believe it was a CNBC interview with Logan Paul, and he was basically coming under scrutiny for the amount of caffeine in the caffeinated version of Prime, the energy drink. What he did is he's a great wordsmith. He skillfully navigated that debate, making the comparison between all his competitors. And then he did something genius. Bearing in mind, this is on like live interview, news on TV. They started talking about the competitors' sugar content in the drinks. And the competitor, being Gatorade, had like 32 grams of sugar, and they have 2 grams of sugar. So instead of just saying that, he pulled out a bottle of Prime that was 16 times larger and just said, you'd have to drink this to have the same amount of sugar as this. On live TV, the man showed up, the man was prepared, and I loved it. I went away going, content creators do not get enough credit for being fucking exceptional marketeers. I was like, that was genius. What he did just there. And I shared it. I'm talking about it now. And they just do this time and time and time again. They play internet games. They speak the internet fluently. On that, I'm going to segue. I was watching an interview with Casey Neistat. And for anyone that doesn't know, Casey Neistat is like one of the godfathers of YouTube, one of the most notable creators. I think his channel was the fastest growing, very much in the early days. And he gave a take where he basically just said that he doesn't think content creators today are really doing things for the right reasons. And he would say when anyone creates a podcast or they're doing a show or a new channel, the first thing they do is like, I need a producer or an editor, and they hire people. And he's like, we are losing something in the art of creating, if you're not the person that's conceptualizing, delivering, and that's what YouTube was. It was built on creators doing stuff, filming, editing, doing all that together. And they learned the craft of storytelling through these executional, technical disciplines. And I thought that was a fascinating take. And I think about that in marketing teams. Marketing teams are having to do more with less. So the variety of skills that a modern marketeer has to have is so multifaceted. I think there's a lot we could learn from content creators like Casey Neistat about like getting into the weeds, producing stuff. One of my motivations actually for doing this podcast with you is I want to start putting stuff on YouTube so I can become obsessed with YouTube in a practitioner level, understand the data, know when people are dropping off, figure out what thumbnails are going to work. These are all things that are going to make me a better marketeer, hence doing it, right? So give me your take on the modern creator landscape and what's good about what we're seeing with more people doing it and what's bad.
Yeah, Casey is kind of speaking. I think he has a utopian view of YouTube because he really came from an era where creativity was the differentiator, and YouTube really promoted originality, and there were just far fewer creators on the platform than there are today. And so there was this real kind of DIY grassroots feel about YouTube. You had creators like Casey who went out to New York City with a camera in his hand, went home and edited these videos that felt very kind of authentic. And those videos cut through, and he was able to build an audience very quickly. Today, the landscape is very, very different. YouTube is a business for most people. Mm-hmm. So people come on the platform now, I don't think to be creative. I think they come on the platform to make money, because YouTube has one of the best monetization, probably the best monetization product of any social platform. And so when that happens, you have a lot of people who aren't there for the creativity. They are there to build an audience, and they are there to make money. And the game has changed. It used to be the most creative and you can become an overnight success. Today, and you ask anyone this, it's the case. It's not about becoming an overnight success. The game is to be persistent and consistent and create for a long, long period of time and really understand how to game the algorithm over a 2 to 3 year time frame. And so what Casey is saying is he's seeing creators come in and immediately hire editors and immediately hire a team because they have to. There's actually just huge competition. There are so many channels out there who are basically creating the same content you do. But in order to cut through, in order to win, you have to have more and more shots at goal. You need to be creating a video a week. And so you need to build systems that allow you to basically churn out content like a factory. And so
could I play devil's advocate there? I agree with the part of he's romanticizing the art of YouTube, specifically if we're talking YouTube. But I do think more broadly that creators miss something. If I look at the largest, most notable, the ones that have cut through, they've done their reps. They've been there. Yes, inherently, they've probably been on platform for a long time and operated through multiple eras of etc. However, they've done it all. They've done it all. And you will be hard pressed to find a real outlier success that isn't out there really creating themselves. I'll take a modern phenomenon, Bobby Allsoft. I don't know if you've seen her, but basically she plays this almost this caricature of someone that's like, how do I describe this? Stereotypical, like teenager, disinterested. Like, so what? A little materialistic. So what? Just doesn't, pay attention. She shot to fame through doing a podcast with Drake. And I believe before that, she was a TikToker, had a pretty large TikTok profile, about over 3 million followers, and was doing this satire. And if I think of her, she is now curating and she acts this persona, but she's doing it all herself. She's like filming herself, she's editing, she's doing a lot herself because she speaks about this and she's like grabbing the bull by the horns. So I would be hard pressed to find an outlier success that isn't doing the content game from grassroots?
I think Bobby has from my understanding, has an agent who is friendly with all of the stars she was able to get. She had Drake on
Inside
episode one.
track.
She had Drake from episode one. You got to remember, and so like that does. I think.
Am I being lied to? Are you telling me this is not? This is carefully orchestrated.
Carefully orchestrated. She was criticized for being an industry plant at some point.
Okay.
But no, yeah, she had built an audience before. You're right. But yeah, I think 100%. I like most creators today have spent years in the trenches. Like Mr. Beast is the best example. He spent years in the trenches making videos that no one was watching to get to where he is today. But I think if you're launching a channel from zero today, it's very difficult to do that because there is just so much more competition. And so I think what Casey is seeing, he's seeing people hire these teams immediately and thinking they're losing the craft, but actually it's survival. Like they have to hire these teams in order to compete with the 10,000 channels who are churning out videos. And there are always going to be outliers, people who are super creative and can cut through with their originality. But YouTube is a game of survival. Most people won't make any money after 1 to 3 years. And so I don't necessarily
that requires love though, right? If you're not going to commercialize, if it's going to take so time, like fundamentally you have to have an appreciation for the art. I want to ask you a question actually, just on that, just bringing it back to brands and YouTube, because I find YouTube fascinating. We all speak of the value that YouTube has in the world. Often we speak through the lens of how much value it has for creators, but you rarely see brands really show up. The occasional, in the UK, Foot Asylum, great example of doing a YouTube first strategy. But give me a take beyond the like really obvious. It's hard. Why aren't more brands either winning or doing more YouTube?
I think they don't understand it. It's the YouTube strategy is very different to every other strategy. And we've learned this because we've built a YouTube channel for over a year now. We have 10,000 subscribers, which sounds modest, but for a developer tool, we're getting like 3,000 watch hours every month. It's our biggest traffic driver to our site. Every video now gets like between 1,000 to 3,000 views, but the videos have so much depth that we're capturing audiences at their highest kind of intent moment and converting them to our product way more effectively than any other social channel.
Are you treating it like a search engine in terms of how you're thinking about orchestrating the stories?
Yeah, so actually 60% of our views are from new users, and then 40% are from our subscribers, existing users, which is important to note because you're doing two strategies there. Like YouTube is an SEO play. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And for our product specifically, people learn development on YouTube, so it makes sense for us to own the SEO space on YouTube. And so we're attracting, every single time we post a video, we're seeing 40% new users come in, discover our product. The other 60%, we're actually, was that the other way around? The other percentage is we're building a dedicated audience who are learning Web3 development with us. And so it's this kind of like dual approach. You can build a dedicated audience, but it's actually, like you said, amazing for searchability. But what most brands don't understand, and you see this with 99% of brands who have a YouTube channel, is the content strategy on YouTube has to be extremely narrow. So in every other social platform, you kind of experiment with formats, you throw different things out, you see what works. On YouTube, you have to decide what your video format is and stick religiously to it. You can never deviate from your strategy. So for example, you might see a brand account and they'll have a launch video for one of their new products. They'll then have a 2-hour podcast with their CEO. They'll then have a recap of their company offsite. And the YouTube algorithm hates this. They hate videos where there's no consistent pattern or theme or thread throughout the videos, because then you don't build an audience of subscribers who are become familiar with what your content is, and they don't watch repeat videos, and so they'll kill the reach of your videos. With our channel, we decided very early our channel was going to be a place where you could learn blockchain development, and we were going to post tutorials and guides on how to learn that. And actually, our product doesn't matter. Like, you could take our product out of that. We could take it out of all of the branding, and the channel should still exist. It should just be a place where you learn how to build with blockchain tools. And that's really important because we're not building a brand channel. We're acting like a creator. We're thinking like a creator. And that's how you really build on YouTube. You build an audience of people who become familiar and understand what the content is going to be next. And then they watch it every single time. And that's how you have those kind of that compounding, growth curve. A lot of brand channels completely kill their growth on YouTube because they get tempted to throw any old video up there. And then you've got this kind of mess of a channel that no one really knows what it's for. And actually, it's just kind of a graveyard for video content.
I couldn't agree more. And YouTube, the level of rich insights, there isn't a platform that can provide better insights than YouTube. When you look under the hood of a video, you can find out everything about who's watching, where they're watching, when they're watching, what people are interacting with, what they're not. It's fascinating how you can damage your algorithm. This is universal for social media, but particularly in places like YouTube. We've seen this time and time again. So I'm asked a lot about Diary of a CEO and, what is their success? And people often naively think they get great guests. I think it's a given. Many people can get great guests. But what the Diary of a CEO team do, and particularly Steve, the obsession over the data. And the data that YouTube provide to allow him and the team to understand what to do, when to do it, how to do it, is absolutely phenomenal. And by contrast, you'll see other large podcasts that have had success. What they will do on their channel is they will conflate or compromise their standards. So they'll have a subpar guest on that erodes the audience. They'll put short clips with long clips. People that are there to view a 1 hour conversation are a different type of viewer to people that are there for 10 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
By bringing and introducing the wrong audiences and the wrong viewing habits to your channel, you kill it. So there's a real science to the art of YouTube specifically, but you do also have the data and the tools to back up and inform your decision making. I'm a big YouTube fan, and I'm glad we've started this journey. And honestly, one of my main motivations is to really understand YouTube. I hear third hand, and I've seen how it's aided Stephen's way of thinking by understanding content simply from the information that YouTube provides.
Yeah, I think it's underrated that you look at one of the craziest growth curves for YouTube is the number of people who watch it on TV now. The accessibility of smart TVs, and I think some crazy stat about the number of people who watch long form YouTube on TV. Actually, it's just going to end up replacing TV at some point. And so we now all have the distribution of a TV network at our fingertips if you're willing to kind of do the work and put it out there. I was having a conversation this week with our CEO talking about how it must be incredibly empowering for entertainers or creators now. If you think about in the past, let's say you got a TV show,
the middleman, the producer, how many voices, having advertisers.
Exactly. You relied on getting a TV show to get yourself out there. And if the TV show bombed, if it got bad ratings, that's it. You're finished. You got cancelled. You have to start again. With YouTube, you actually control your destiny in a different way, where you can actually just be persistent and consistent over an incredibly long period of time, and you have a far greater control over your success. You can curate your content, you get immediate feedback, and actually you can shape your own journey. For a lot of people, that is really hard, and most won't do it. So it actually does, I think, separate more so the top 1% from the rest. For a lot of people, it's incredibly empowering. You can actually build your success in a much more controlled way.
Yeah, and all of these factors mean you have to be consistent. You have to show up all the time on a regular basis. And I think it's the missing ingredient in most teams, a level of consistency. I want to bring up another topic that I think is really interesting, and we discussed this earlier in the week: customer service, community management, customer service. We're seeing more and more interaction within the comments, treating the community not like a customer service channel or something that you have to do, but something brands should want to do. How do you think about customer service, and how can it be used in marketing as a weapon, as a channel, as a tool?
Yeah, customer service is incredibly powerful marketing. In that, well, I think one thing to say is that in general, customer service is underrated by most, and especially for our context, our business is in emerging tech, and good customer service is a massive opportunity because most people are very bad at it. So we decided very, very early on as a company, we were going to over invest in customer service. It was going to be one of the things that we went crazy on. And we had very strict rules that there has to be 24/7 round the hour, round the clock support for our tool, because when you're competing in a new market, often people will choose the tool that they get the most help with. If I try and use something, I can't figure it out, I ask for help, it takes me 2 days to reply. We've seen numerous cases where we've managed to steal customers because they haven't had a response in 2 days from a different tool. They go to us. We have a Discord which has round the clock support. We've hired people across the world from within our community who sit all day and just respond to support messages. We've seen people convert that way because they need to build something now. They're impatient. They want to get it done. That's the first point. The second point is, well, we now live in a world where everybody reports on every single negative experience and positive experience they have, but more so the negative experiences. We know that negative experiences travel much further on social media. And so you're actually doing a massive disservice to yourself if you don't have good customer service, because you're opening the door for negativity very, very easily. And great customer service feels amazing. It feels like you're really cared for. It feels just warm and positive. And so you're going to create people who really advocate for you and really love your brand.
That's the key word you said there. All of that, what you just described, ladders up to one thing: care.
Yeah.
We have a philosophy: outcare the competition. We're going to outcare everybody in how we behave, how we show up in the world, how we treat everyone, how we treat each other. Outcaring the competition. I'll tell you my most successful by reach metrics post on LinkedIn, because I think it kind of feeds into this. I spend a lot of time creating videos for LinkedIn. So it's a big commitment, and I try and do it as efficiently as I can. And, again, a motivation for doing this is to speak about topics I care about and create content for LinkedIn. There's a company in America called Chewy, right? And they embody care. So what they became famed for doing, when your pet passes away, instead of, usually your customer experiences aren't good. You have to justify, you might have to prove to cancel your subscription, etc., etc. What Chewy did is when someone loses a pet, which is like a family member, they literally send them flowers. So they're no longer going to be spending money with Chewy, but they send them flowers, and they understand the pain that someone is going through losing a pet. I screen grabbed a tweet, and I didn't know they did this for everybody. I thought this was just a one-off. So I see a tweet of someone talking about their experience with Chewy. I screen grab it. I say, number one business strategy, care. This post bangs. This post absolutely bangs. Everyone connected with that idea. They found that an endearing act. Chewy don't even know that someone who went viral again because they talked about going viral. And then I read the comments, and basically hundreds of people were saying, Chewy did this for me. Chewy did this for me. Chewy did this for me. And it really did, in that moment, say two things. One, caring is a winning strategy. But two, how you behave in the world is really, I suppose, the impact you have on the world is an unknown. You don't know the things that you're doing as a brand. We often say in marketing, we're not saving lives. It helps people sell more things online. But you never know the impact you have through your causes and actions. And I was really encouraged by just reading so many people going, this company is making people feel good. They're celebrating it. In turn, their bottom line's probably not doing bad either. So I just wanted to share that because I think it embodies everything you're describing as customer service, but caring as a weapon in marketing.
Yeah, and they understand the invisible PR that will happen for them after that. The
Yes.
millions of conversations that people will talk about them, not necessarily share it on social media,
Hmm.
but just huge uh, positives for them as a brand.
Can two things coexist? So, what I mean by that, can you authentically care and know that it's going to just selfishly serve you? Is
Yeah,
that really caring?
so
Yes?
that's a good question. This is not a philosophy podcast, Ollie.
Well, you know what? Occasionally I feel deep. I'm usually jovial, but these big questions are important.
It's a good question.
Okay, let's go into machines. We kind of touched a little bit on platform. We spent some time talking about YouTube. Few things have happened in the world of technology and social media. Probably the biggest news that I was particularly interested in, ChatGPT Enterprise. OpenAI have launched an enterprise version of their large language model. They've onboarded, I believe, around 20 to 30 businesses that are running the pilot. I'm speaking to brands week in, week out now, and they are all asking similar questions. How do we not miss this train? How do we take advantage of all these new possibilities that AI is introducing into our workflow? How do we not get left behind? But then they all stop and say, I'm scared. Not about missing out. I'm scared that there's going to be a security breach. I'm scared that my data, I have no control once it goes into the black box. And that is a big problem. We are putting the trust in this tremendously powerful tool that is artificial intelligence. We are putting it in the hands of a handful of companies. And these are black boxes. We don't know what goes in them. We just see what comes out of them. It's magical, but there is caution. So OpenAI have introduced an enterprise version, meaning you can have a closed model as a company. You can put safeguarded measures. You have privacy. Your data isn't being fed into the main model that is open sourced and used by everybody. And I think it's an important step. I want to ask you, because you work in Web3, I want to ask you, how does Web3 or technologies developed on the blockchain, how does that interact with technology like AI? The reason I say that is because Web3 is this utopia that promises a fairer, transparent, permissionless internet that is democratized. But yet, the internet, particularly more recently, is evolving to these black box chatbot interfaces that no one knows what's inside. Do you see a future where these technologies come together, work in harmony? And how are you thinking about the relationship between the two?
A lot of people are a lot of people are turning their kind of attention to how the blockchain is actually solving a lot of the concerns of AI. So particularly when it comes to um, unverifiable content, or the fact that you can now duplicate artworks or any kind of creative work. Well, blockchain is actually this really powerful tool to um, create verification and create authentication for content and for pieces of imagery that may or may not be replicated. So, for example, people have talked about the use case of every single camera. When I take a photo of something, that photo is immediately minted to the blockchain. And then I have indisputable proof that this is the original. And if somebody was to then use AI to, in some way, doctor or edit or create some new image from that, well, then we now have a kind of traced record of every single piece of original content on the internet. I think that's one thing. I think in general, the philosophy of Web3 is that people should be able to use the internet without giving away all of their data, without completely relinquishing any kind of privacy that they used to have. And I think there are kind of really two ends to this. So there are people who are very kind of, blockchain maximalists who believe that it is evil the way that corporations take our data and sell it to advertisers, and that it is incredibly invasive. And then there's people on the other side, uh, which I think is rarer, but who really don't care. They actually see the fact that they take my data and they sell me things is actually that's quite a positive experience.
Bro, no one cares. Everyone say, if you ask someone directly, do you care about their data? They'll say yes. But everybody signs up to things that they don't understand because it's free and adds some value. So no one inherently cares. Our actions truly determine what we care about. We don't care about privacy. You know,
You don't care about privacy, but do you hate it when you get a spam email? Do you hate it when somebody sends you a letter through the mailbox that you didn't ask for? And do you find it invasive when companies, when I'm trying to book a restaurant and I'm asked to give them my address, my mother's maiden name? I think there like everything, it's a scale, and we're actually all somewhere in the middle. Companies do take more data than they need to from us, and I think there are cases now where it's starting.
you can't have your cake and eat it.
What's my cake?
Your cake is everything: the free tools, the internet, the connection.
Yeah,
We're plugged into the ether. I don't think you can have your cake and eat it. I do believe that we should have a solution that is fairer and governed. But the cynic in me, or the cynical side, says, I don't think people care enough. I feel this problem would have been further, or we'd be much further down a solution line to these privacy problems if people actually cared. I don't think they do because the pull or the value exchange is too strong in one area. I would love a world or a future state where both could coexist. I just don't know if it will.
fair enough.
Well, that's a mood killer on a Friday, isn't it? Putting the world to rights. I do want to close out on just one more topic, and it's something you really specialize in. You've built a huge Discord community. And I don't know how I feel about huge Discord communities because I find them confusing. I like small, intimate, closed groups, and they're a bit intimidating, large Discord groups. Talk to me about Discord as a platform, because I think there's a lot of value and there's still many unknowns to marketeers. And I'd love to understand the role it plays for you as an organization, the role it can play more broadly, and then what are some of the sort of guiding principles of launching and setting up a Discord if you decide to?
I think Discord is incredibly powerful for certain brands and certain industries. I don't think everybody should have a Discord. Anybody that has a community-led business will really thrive there. And we're seeing it more and more with brands who have built-in fandoms. So a lot of big IP owners, sports clubs have huge opportunity on Discord. They're actually seeing it as an incredibly powerful place to build what my good friends Joe and Alessio and Josh have coined the many-to-many strategy. So you think about social media is one-to-many, where you have one kind of centralized network, which is spewing out an audience, spewing out messaging to those people, but we're not really having much in return. This new strategy is many to many, where you have a huge number of brand ambassadors and advocates conversing and speaking with each other and actually holding their attention on average for a lot longer. So I think like I've heard them, launch Discords for some of the biggest sports teams in the world, Manchester United, and there are something like 80,000, 100,000 messages being sent every week. It's just a scale of content and a volume of content that you can't really reach anywhere else, and a scale of attention that you're grabbing that you can't really reach anywhere else. The caveat with Discord is that it's an incredibly high maintenance platform, and it requires a deep level of expertise. It is built almost like a how do I describe it? Understanding how to build a Discord almost requires a level of technical understanding. It's built by developers, and you can tell it's built for developers. And so understanding how to design a Discord requires understanding how to set up bots, how to configure permissions. It's incredibly technical. But again, like when these things have a high barrier to entry like that, they usually have a high return. And it's been one of the biggest business drivers for us because we now have a town hall. We now have a home where our audience can come and meet each other, can talk about our product, can troubleshoot in an environment which really isn't possible on any social network. And I think Discord is just the extension of comments, of replies. We've seen how communities can foster in these places. Well, Discord is just like this, but 10x. And I think it's incredibly powerful and underrated.
So on that, take an adjacent category that isn't deeply rooted in fandom. You talk about sport, gaming, even go as far as investing, or it's not deep rooted in a passion. Take a category like beauty or fashion. They would largely like to think, in some respects, they're a community-based category or business. How would you think about a Discord, or what role would it play in a broader channel strategy for a company like that?
So I've seen a few successful launches. I think Prada, Gucci, Braindead have all launched their own Discord servers, and it tends to veer towards for very specific drops or specific discounted, events for their very core fans. And I think that's a good starting point. This is a very experimental platform, and it should be reserved for particular campaigns. I can experiment, does this campaign really resonate with a very core subset of our audience? I think it's the best way to curate, like, who are the top 5% of my customers and how do I reach them better? I think Discord is the place to do that, because you actually don't want to speak to 100% of your audience. It's a complete shit show. But who are the
super fans? The super
exactly,
fans.
it's the super fans. Who are the people who are turning up every single day?
Okay, so that's foundational step number one. How do you drive people to a Discord? It's all well and good having one and curating and orchestrating a great experience. What tips do you have for driving attention towards a Discord?
I think the great thing about Discord is that you can't see anything until you enter the server. And so you have an immediate opportunity there to drive curiosity and drive intrigue by launching something big only on Discord. So I've seen that a lot where it has to be an exclusive drop or an exclusive promotion of some kind that is only happening in that place. And so I think the GMGN Labs, the boys, they've done it really well with Manchester United, where you have to go through Discord to collect Manchester United's first ever digital collectibles NFT drop. And so it's not happening anywhere else. Discord is the place to get it. And as a result, you'll get this, incredible funnel of people who are just curious. You might have a lot of them drop off, but the key is to find who are the top 5% who are going to be sticky and stay around.
Like it. And I think that's a tactic or a strategy that isn't used enough. Leveraging curiosity. We started this conversation talking about the appeal of Stephen's book launch and the curiosity that gifting program drove. And, when you think across the entire marketing spectrum, the idea of the unknown, we're curious beings.
Yeah.
Give us some value. Don't tell us everything. It's interesting when we launched Flight Story, we had very ambiguous messaging. And in part, that was because we didn't fully know what we were going to evolve into or be, but in part, it was intentional. There is something about ambiguity that's really powerful in marketing, giving clarity, but also retaining some level of ambiguity. I think that's the sweet spot. Yeah. Dude, let's finish off. We've done a good chat. There was a few other topics we could have talked about, but let's save it for next week. So they're a little more general. I want to end on a controversial opinion of the week. And this week, I'm going to say a statement, and I want you to tell me if I'm right, wrong, argue with me or something. And I'm going to say it. Some of you data folk out there are going to hate this. Attribution has killed marketing. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think attribution has changed marketing in that it's become way more data-driven and way more mathematical than it used to be. And as someone like me who failed miserably at maths and doesn't like data very much, I was actually pleasantly surprised by, when I went into a full-time growth role, by actually how much of marketing is still about creativity and still about, just putting good stuff out there. Attribution makes everything a lot easier to track, a lot easier to measure, and therefore easier to scale. But actually, the fundamentals haven't changed. You still need to be the best creatives. You still need to create the best content. You still need to understand how to write brilliant copy that positions your product brilliantly. We just now have better tools to know how to scale this messaging. Okay. Attribution hasn't killed marketing. It's just made it easier to scale. But for me, creativity still wins.
Okay, I'm going to throw you off the fence and give you my take. Yours was a very balanced, nuanced, well-articulated argument. But what I'm going to say why attribution has killed, I will say attribution inherently hasn't. Insight is really important for marketing. Attribution specifically has killed marketing because we overemphasize channels that score the goal. We invest too much energy and resource in having all the answers. Several years ago, I was at a talk and a representative for Google put up a picture of an elephant. It was a dot to dot. And the point she was making was, hey, everyone, can you tell me what's on the screen? And it wasn't a complete picture. It was but we knew it was an elephant. And the point she was making, in a world where we have all the data points, we can optimize to the 10th degree, we can know everything about everything, we can know what's going to come next, we often miss the wood for the trees, and you don't need all the data in order to paint a complete and full picture. And it was a bit hyperbolic for theatre, for stage, but that really resonated with me. And I think in a world where our pursuits are measuring and justifying every decision, I actually think there's something for gut, intuition, creativity. Barbie was a great example of just showing there wasn't a proper measurement framework in place. There was just an aggressive strategy, just executed unapologetically. Yeah. And I think you'll see this time and time again. You can optimize what you're doing and form your decisions, but attribution, not measurement, not insight, attribution specifically, I think is leading to a lot more mediocrity in the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I remember, again, like I said, before I came into this growth role, I had this anxiety that, oh my God, there's so much I don't know and I'm going to completely fuck this up. And it's this black box of marketing I don't really understand. It's not as complicated as that at all, really. And I think people have over-indexed for attribution and for scalability, mainly because Facebook and Google built these incredible ad products, which meant that you could literally print money if you knew how to game them. I think now the game is kind of going back the other direction where, again, the space is saturated and people aren't getting the ad returns they are. And yeah, it's now more, I think Barbie is this kind of great example where we're now just seeing aggression win again.
Yeah, take me back to the days. I think it was Ogilvy, and I could get this right, I could have bastardized this, famously said, 50% of my marketing works and 50% doesn't. I just don't know which half. Yeah. And, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Dude, great conversation. Thank you so much. This has been Memes and Machines with Oliver Yonchev and Catty Catman Cathal. See you soon.
See you next week.